awaited event is finally here. Give yourselves the void. Shadow, rise and fight. Another challenger. Mortal flesh is so fallible. Another challenger. Resist the assault. Give yourselves the void. Grasp your mortality tightly.
Low on mine.
Twin terrors. Feel your sparkling light and inspiration.
Impale, Rain of Arrows, Traps, Charge Stacking as a Trickster. You wouldn't think these words belong in the same sentence, but with 15 million DPS and solid tankiness, this build turned out to surpass my expectations, and it just goes to show that in current PoE you really can make anything viable. Traps have kind of fallen by the wayside in PoE. The playstyle isn't for everyone, and most native trap skills just aren't that worth using, but if you're willing to look deeper, you can find interactions worth pursuing. Rain of Arrows works well with traps because it's an AoE skill with good coverage and doesn't need the targeting of mines. Because the projectiles fire from the trap, we can take full advantage of point blank without having to be in melee distance from enemies. We also use Sunblast to basically triple damage output at the cost of delaying our damage. This makes it clunky to clear with, but we solve that with the Maniforged Arrows setups and Asenaths, and as you can see there's really no issues with clear. As a trap build, one of our best supports is charged traps. We reach 9 frenzy charges with Trickster and use a replica badge of the Brotherhood to also gain 9 endurance charges for 36% physical and elemental damage mitigation. These charges, combined with the Restless Ward, gives us 700 life regen and a bunch of move speed, which is vital because bow characters have no good travel skills. The playstyle ends up being pretty smooth with 100 move speed without flask and a one button playstyle. If that interests you, then let's get into the POB and finer details of the character. Alright, so here I am with my character, level 97. It was pretty smooth leveling experience, and I'm just gonna go over my passive tree and my gear in some more detail and explain some of the decisions I made with this build. So once again, I am Impale, Rain of Arrows, Traps, Trickster. With Sunblast I throw out 3 traps, and there's a short delay. Rain of Arrows on its own averages 3 hits against a single target, and triple that with Sunblast, so we're averaging 9 hits per trap throw. I'm Impale, my bow is a fizz bow. We can use a Harbinger bow, which is a really bad attack speed base because we're not attacking, we're throwing traps. So I bought this Fracture for pretty cheap. Harvest Reforged Fizz until T1 flat, and then Prefix Lock and Veiled Orb for the fizz damage. I got Poison, Impale would be better, but this is good enough, and then it's just multi-mod to finish. I am a Trickster, mainly for this charge node. I'm notably not a Saboteur because Saboteur kind of sucks for traps. And then I take Polymath because it's just generically good. And you could go the Suppress route. I chose not to because One Step Ahead just feels really good. And then Heartstopper, I don't like this node on paper, but I took it and it actually feels fine in game. Like you just don't think about it, and sometimes you're tanky. My tree otherwise, I take some of these fizz damage nodes here that nobody ever takes, and because of that, I have this Lethal Pride in this spot that's very popular for Tricksters, and I can get 1, 2, 3, 4 nodes of double damage for 20 double damage for pretty cheap. I go down here, I got some crit, some mana cost, and some bow crit. I also have a Light of Meaning for fizz damage. This hits 19 passives, so this is giving me 114 fizz damage. Very nice. Path down more crit, some life. This crit bleed will is ridiculously good. And then I go down to these charge nodes. These damage per charge things are a significant chunk of my damage scaling. Again, I have 9 frenzies and 9 endurances. And then while I'm here, I take some Impale stuff to cap Impale and get more Impale effect. And finally, I have a Watcher's Eye for Pride, 2 additional Impale hits. As for the rest of my gear, my quiver is accuracy. You start with a Fizz Fracture. I reforged crit until T1 crit multi, and then you can do the cannot roll attack mods and slam annul prefixes until you get good damage with bow skills and life. I ended up with double T1, and then I also randomly slammed a T2 cold res, so this quiver is very nice. My helmet, my rings, and my boots are mostly just life and res. This ring has vulnerability on a hit. My gloves are Asenath's. I was initially using this just because it was a cheap unique with +1 frenzy, and then I realized the explodes from it make clear really nice, so I ended up just keeping it. You'll notice it has temp chains on hit, which is bad for our build, but with the vuln on hit from my ring, this actually overrides it. My body armor is the Restless Ward, a lot of life regen, a lot of move speed, and a lot of charge duration. One thing to note is with charged traps and Sunblast, I actually don't generate charges from this because my traps aren't triggered by enemies. Skitterbots can do that, but it's it's not very common. And so I have this Mana Forged Frenzy power charge on crit setup. This generates frenzies and power charges. For endurance charges, I have a weapon swap to a Red Blade banner with Enduring Cry. You can see it's pretty quick, instantly 9 charges, and they last 50 seconds, so I don't have to keep this up too often in boss fights. So yeah, that's the build. If you found it interesting, or if you want to see more weird off-meta stuff like this, consider following. This is what I live for in PoE. And I hope this inspires you to take a look at some other lesser used skills in Path of Exile and, try to make them work. You'll never know when you'll strike gold. Thanks for watching.